London Film and Comic Con 2014. It's now Wednesday, so the event was 3 days ago. Knew this was going to be a particularly busy one in terms of people attending, because it was the last European convention appearance by Stan Lee, of Marvel fame, co-creator of Spider-Man and Hulk and Iron Man and X-Men and most of the Avengers, etc, etc, etc. So what they'd done was they spread the event into two parts of Earls Court. Earls Court 2, where it's usually held, had the majority of the guests and all the dealers, etc. And then upstairs in the Brompton Hall part of Earls Court 1, which a few years ago was where they had the entertainment media show where I met David Tennant. They had Stan Lee and all the comic guests and a big stage and a few other things apparently. Then they arranged it so that you could, when you got there in the morning, you could work out your priorities and either queue to go in and get virtual tickets for Stan first, or just join the normal queue and go into the main hall. Knowing how busy it was going to be, for the first time ever I actually pre-booked my entrance tickets, which I'm glad I did, because it really was manic. Normally when the gates open at 7 o'clock, which is when the car park opens, I'm normally in there parked by 5 past, within the first 50 or so people in the queue. I was queuing to go in at 7, they opened the gates. 15:15 I ended up parking, getting up to the queue, ended up halfway around the building, but I was still in by 9:05, so that wasn't too bad at all. Headed round, got all my virtual queue tickets. Initially I had 6 photo shoots booked for each day, but 2 of my Saturday guests cancelled late. Sherilyn Fenn and the guest I was most looking forward to meeting this weekend, Natalie Dormer, who was in the Tudors and is in Game of Thrones and was in the Fades and various other things, and who's one of my favourite actresses, so I was gutted she'd cancelled. But looking on the bright side, it saved me some money, because I was going to be spending about 150 quid on her. But yes, so I had 4 photo shoots, and I grabbed virtual tickets for everybody who I wanted to meet, whether they were there just Saturday or whether they were there all weekend. But then I made sure I prioritised the people who were just there Saturday. So while I was waiting for my first photo shoot, I got Daniel Portman, who was a late announcement. He plays Pod in Game of Thrones. Great character if you know the show. He's Peter Dinklage's character's manservant. Shocked me completely because he had a broad Scottish accent, but a really nice guy. Had a little chat about when he was going to start filming, which he didn't know yet, but the show starts filming in 3 weeks, and he was waiting to hear when he'd be needed. He was no post photos, which was a shame, so I haven't got a photo with him, but this is the autograph he signed for me. Next up was Jenna Coleman, aka Clara from Doctor Who, a current companion, also in Emmerdale. Met her last year, I think it was last year or the year before, whenever it was, at Milton Keynes. So knew what to expect from her, but wanted to meet her again because she's lovely, in every sense of the word. I managed to get an early queue ticket for her, so I managed to get to see her within the first hour. I was wearing my Souffle Girl t-shirt, which she spotted and commented on, said it was a cool shirt, she said, and I said, well, it had to be done, didn't it? Asked her how the filming was going, and she said, yeah, it's great. I said, nearly done, aren't you? And she said, yeah, then we're off on our world tour. And I said, yeah, you must be looking forward to that. She said, yep. Signed a photo for me, and this is it. She was no pose photos, but I had a photo shoot with her, which you will see shortly. Apparently she wasn't feeling very well, which I saw no sign of, but she was a trooper. She cut her lunch short to make sure that she saw everyone and stayed all day, even though our last photo shoot was at 5 o'clock. So yeah, fair play to her. Next was my first photo shoot of the day, which was with Lena Headey, Cersei in Game of Thrones, Sarah Connor in Terminator Sarah Connor Chronicles. She's in Dredd, she's in 300, she's in lots and lots of things. It's the third time I've met her, so if you watch all of these, you should know who she is by now. And if you don't, just go out and watch her films, because she's a brilliant actress and a lovely person to boot. I planned on asking her for a hug in the photo shoot, because I'd already had 2 previous ones with her, a solo one and one with Peter Dinklage last year, but she wasn't hugging. A guy just in front of me had asked and she said no, so I thought fair enough, I won't even attempt to ask. So I just had a standard pose with her, but it was very nice. And this is it. From there it was to Jenna's photo shoot. She said hello again as I approached, because she probably recognised the t-shirt. Again, just a standard pose, but a nice shot. And then it was straight from Jenna to my third photo shoot, which was with John Hurt, a legendary actor, starred in lots and lots of things. I had met him before a few years ago, but hadn't got a photo with him, only one of him. So I'd booked a photo shoot because I wanted one with him, especially since he's now officially a doctor, as he was the War Doctor in the 50th anniversary special, which makes him Doctor 8.5. For those of you who aren't avid Whovians. Standard, again, photo shoot, but he was very nice, happily posing with sonic screwdrivers for those people who'd brought him into the shoot. Sporting a magnificent moustache, and this is the photo. From John, I went and got Joa Ando, who played Martha's mum in Doctor Who. She's also the pathologist in Law and Order UK. She was in Invictus, and she's done lots and lots of things. You may well recognise her from other things. She was really nice, very chatty. They're talking about how busy it was, how hot it was. When I asked her for a photo, she got her daughter to take it, and after her daughter took it, she said, "Oh, that's lovely," she said, and this is it. You can already see in the background how busy it's getting, and this was before the standard entry people started coming in at 11 o'clock. This is the photo Joa signed for me. She was making a point of asking everybody's name and introducing herself. Even the guy in front of me, he just wanted a signature, he didn't want it personalised. But she said, no, I just want to know your name. But yeah, she was really nice, really chatty. Thanked me for coming, hoped I'd enjoy my day. Yeah, really nice person. You'll have to excuse me if you keep seeing me looking down at my notes to see the order of people I met, but as I say, it was 3 days ago, and also, as you'll find out when I get to Sunday, I did meet a lot of people. Next was my actual autograph with John Hurt. Again, as I say, I had met him before, and then I got an Alien photo signed, but I had to get a Doctor Who one signed, so sure enough, did. He's a very pleasant guy, very nice. Said he was enjoying the day so far. This is a photo he signed for me. Next was a guest who was only announced on the Thursday after Natalie Dormer had cancelled, and that's Isaac Hempstead Wright, who plays Bran Stark in Game of Thrones. He's only a young lad. This was his first ever convention. He'd been talked into doing it by Christian Nairn, who plays Hodor, who I met last year, who was also at the event. He was only signing between 1 and 5, so once he got there, it was a bit manic and the queue kept filling up and they had to keep cutting off the queue, stopping people joining it until it had cleared a bit. Wasn't expecting to be able to get a photo with him, but could, which was nice. Two guys in front of me were French, and he said, "Oh, where have you come from?" And they said France. He started having a huge conversation with them in French because he studies it at college, which is a bit show off if you ask me, but really nice guy. I've got to stop saying guy. Really nice young man. Had a little chat about how much he was enjoying the event and seeing all the people dressed up and feeling sorry for the people dressed up in the big, like the guy dressed up as Chewbacca. I said guy again. Yeah, the bloke dressed up as Chewbacca, and how hot it must be, because by this point it was boiling in there. Yeah, really hot. But yeah, very nice, and as I say, he was happy to pose for a photo, and this is it. And this is a photo he signed for me. Next was Gemma Redgrave, proper old school British actress, been in lots of things, currently playing Kate Lethbridge-Stewart in Doctor Who, but part of the Redgrave clan, dynasty, whatever you want to call it, of actors. Not sure, she might have been a bit unwell because she was wearing a scarf, which in that heat I see no reason for, but she was very nice. Had a nice little chat about the event. She told me that apparently they were stopping people coming in, which is the first I'd heard of that, but it turns out it was true because there were too many people there for health and safety reasons. But yeah, very nice, signed my photo. And posed for a photo with me. Next was my last photo shoot of the day, which was with Serena Vincent. Serena's an actress who's been in quite a few things over in the States, not all of which have been particularly popular over here. She was in a horror film called Cabin Fever, first film of Eli Roth, who went on to do Hostel and has worked with Tarantino and so on and so forth. She was in Not Another Teen Movie, which was a spoof of American Pie and that sort of film, and was one of a few of those spoof films that is actually genuinely funny. Very nice in the photo shoot. She was making sure she asked everybody's name as we approached, and taking time to make sure she looked good and posed nicely. This is the shot. By now it was about 3 o'clock. Charlie Higson, the comedian and writer, was doing a book signing promoting his children's books, and I'd taken a load of my Young Bond novels for him to sign that he wrote, but I'd left them in the car because I didn't want to be lugging them around all day, so I left to go to the car park to pick up the books, and as soon as I stepped outside, just the difference in temperature, how much cooler it was, just made me realise I didn't want to go back in that hall. So I thought, sod it, and I came home. Bit disappointing not to have met Charlie, but I'd much rather have been happier and healthier, I think. Yeah, so came home, took an hour just to get to the other side of the Hammersmith flyover because the Hammersmith Bridge was closed, so that was fun and games. Yeah, and that was it for Saturday. So I only met people who were just there that day on Saturday. Decided to save everybody who was there both days for the Sunday, which I was a bit concerned about because if it was anywhere near as busy as it had been on Saturday, it might have been tricky, but Sundays are traditionally a lot quieter. I think it's generally about 20% less people on Sunday than Saturday. Sunday the car park's not meant to open to 8, so I had an extra hour in bed and aimed to get there for 8 o'clock. Pulled up at 9 minutes to, expecting to be waiting on the road, and it was all open, car park was open, and massive queues everywhere, and I thought, oh god, here we go. So parked up, and the guy in the car park explained yes, they had opened early because of the volume of people. So parked up, went and joined the queue. I decided by this point that I wasn't even going to attempt to get Stanley's autograph. From what I'd heard, he hadn't signed many on the Saturday with all his other commitments, and the fact that he's 91, so could only do things in short bursts, needed lots of rest. Much as I would have liked to have got it for my collection, it wasn't vital, so I thought it wasn't worth the hassle. So I just joined the normal queue. This time I was round the back of the building, but I was still in by 9:10 once the doors opened, so that wasn't too bad at all. Quickly scooted round again and got all the virtual queue tickets. Thankfully still got nice low numbers for everybody. I think the highest I got was 268 for Summer Glau. Lena Headey was 190 something, and then everybody else was in double figures, so that was no problem at all. I had first photo shoot of the day at 9:30, so went straight to that, and that was with Summer Glau. Summer played River Tam in Firefly and Serenity, then she played the Terminator in Terminator Sarah Connor Chronicles. That's not easy to say. She was in Arrow at the moment, I believe. She had a guest role in Dollhouse. She had a very small role in Angel. Those of you who watch Big Bang Theory might be familiar with her from when the guys were travelling on a train and spotted her on there and tried to chat her up with the immortal line, "Is it hot in here or is it summer?" But yeah, she was the other guest I was most looking forward to this weekend. Somebody I'd wanted to meet ever since I started doing the cons. She was at the one after my first one, which is the only one I've missed since I started going, because it was when I was unemployed and didn't have any money. So I've been waiting and waiting for her to come back, and finally she did. Wasn't sure what to expect from her because of the characters she plays, but I was guessing she'd be nice because everybody from Firefly is. In fact, anybody from anything that Joss Whedon works on tends to be. He just attracts that sort of person. But got in there, and sure enough, she was happy to hug and do whatever anybody wanted, so to speak. So I went up there, put my arm around her, had the photo taken. He said, "Oh, wait." I blinked, and the photographer looked at the picture, and sure enough, she had. So I took another one. So I got to have my arm around her a little bit longer, which was nice. And then ended up with this shot. From there I went to get Juliet Landau's autograph. Juliet played Drusilla in Buffy and Angel. She's the daughter of Martin Landau. She was in Ed Wood, done various other bits and bobs. I had met her before a few years ago, and she was nice enough but quite shy. But something's happened, because she is a really chatty woman now. What was nice, I don't know if I've heard reports that he's her husband, I don't know, but a guy sat next to her who she co-directs documentaries and films with. He was sort of chatting to us as we waited, and then she was sort of taking over the conversation as she was signing. Woman couple in front of us was wearing a t-shirt with a quote from Time Bandits on, which they had a little chat about, which led them on to Monty Python, and they were talking about, they asked her whether she'd seen them at the recent O2 gigs, which she had, and as they looked up to me, I said, yeah, I went as well, so partly involved in that conversation. And then he spotted my t-shirt, which was a Weird Fish t-shirt, A View to a Grill, a Bond pun, as all the Weird Fish t-shirts are fishy puns. So we had a little chat about Bond films, and which was my favourite, and got onto On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which is one of my favourites. And he was talking about George Lazenby, and then they mentioned that They'd interviewed a couple of Bond girls for their vampire documentary, Maddie Smith, and was sort of hesitating, said, "Oh, and Caroline Munro?" I said, "Yeah." And you know, he said, "Oh, have you met them?" I said, "Yeah, they're both lovely," and had a little chat about them and how good Caroline Munro was, how they wanted her to act in a proper film for them, give her a decent part, because they don't think she's ever had any, but when she was reading out excerpts from a couple of vampire stories for them, they could tell how good she would be. So yeah, really nice, you know, proper conversation. When I said I had a photo shoot with her later, she said, "Oh, I'm looking forward to it, I'll see you then. It's about 1 o'clock, isn't it?" I said, "Yeah, I think so." But yeah, she was really nice, really friendly. This is the photo she signed for me. Next, I met Casper Van Dien, who was in Starship Troopers, also Sleepy Hollow and Tarzan and Mortal Kombat and various other things, but Starship Troopers was the reason I wanted to meet him. He's mad as a box of frogs. He was randomly shouting things at people. Yeah, very extrovert, shall we say. I think it's probably the right word, but very nice. I had 2 photos, a solo one for him and one of him with somebody else who I will mention in a minute, but this is the one he signed of just him. And this is me posing with him at the table. Next, I met Sarah Louise Madison, who plays monsters on Doctor Who, mostly Weeping Angels, also Time Monster and Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS. You may recall from previous videos I got some limited edition Doctor Who coins that Matt Smith signed the one with him on and Karen Gillan signed the one with her on, and one of the other 2, I've got one with Dalek on and one with Weeping Angel on. So when Sarah was announced, I thought, oh great, I can get her to sign that one. So I got her to sign that, and then she had a lovely shot of her as herself, and she's a very pretty girl, so I got her to sign one of those as well. So this is the coin. It's not the best scan because unfortunately the scanner focuses on the coin in the foreground rather than the background, but you can get the gist. And this is the photo she signed. And this is me posing with her. She was very nice. We just had a little chat about the weekend and how it was busy and how she'd heard about how bad it had been the day before. Next was my photo shoot with Milo Ventimiglia. Milo played Peter Petrelli in Heroes. I had met him years and years ago, in 2007 I think it was, when Heroes was first big, and him and 3 of the other cast members were very late announcements for London Comic Con, and it was madness, absolute mayhem, and it was a quick in-out, unpersonalised signature. That was about it. So I wasn't really sure what to expect from him. Turns out he's a really nice guy. Let's say I had a photo shoot with him, went in, he was taking time with everybody, trying to do different poses and holds. I shook his hand as I went up to him, took my hand away, and he sort of grabbed it back and said, "No, give me that." And as you can see, so nice pose with us shaking hands, and this is it. I believe the beard is for a role. Next was the other Starship Troopers guest. There was Dina Meyer, who played Dizzy in it. She was also in Dragonheart and the first 4, I think, Saw films. She was one of Joey's love interests from Friends. She's done quite a lot of things. Really nice. She was no post photos at her desk, but she was really chatting with everybody. If you asked her a question, she gave you a proper decent answer. People in front of me asked about shooting with fight scenes, so I asked her what it was like working with Paul Verhoeven, who's one of my favourite directors, and she basically said, yeah, everything you would expect him to be, he is, and more. Brilliant, mad, zany, genius. I can't remember exactly what word she used, but you get the gist. Yeah, really nice. Again, I had to assign one of just her and then the one with Casper, so this is one of just her. And this is her and Casper. I lied before, even with my notes, it doesn't help. Before I met Dina, I met Michael Madsen. Michael, brilliant actor, probably best known for Reservoir Dogs and the infamous ear cutting scene, in a few other Tarantino films or related films. Also he was in Free Willy, he was in Thelma and Louise, The Getaway. He played Jinx's, Halle Berry's boss in Die Another Day. Done lots and lots of things. I believe he was in Big Brother over here, but I might be misremembering because I don't actually remember. I don't actually watch it. He wasn't the chattiest of guests, but he was pleasant enough. He noted the photo was one I'd taken myself, but they did have the same one on his desk, but they had matte ones and mine was gloss, and that sort of threw him a bit because he said, "Oh, this one's shinier than the others," and I said, "Yeah, I bought it myself." He said, "Oh, that explains that." As I say, not the chattiest of guests, but he happily signed a photo and said he was enjoying the weekend. He was no post photos, but I guessed he would be, so I booked a photo shoot with him. This is a photo he signed for me from Reservoir Dogs. As I say, then it was Dina. Then I met Jamie Bamber, who hopefully most of you will actually recognise. He was in the first few series of Law and Order UK. His big role is Starbuck in Battlestar Galactica. I think he's Starbuck, I've never watched it, but I apologise if I'm incorrect about that. Done lots and lots of other things. He had a small role in Dollhouse. He was in The Smoke recently. As I say, just done lots and lots of things. Really nice guy, chatting with everybody. Photo I took myself from Law and Order, which is what I knew him from and liked him from. And when I put it down, he just sort of sat back and was sort of studying his costume in it, trying to remember who chose what, and we had a little chat about that with his guest assistant, who's one of the regulars who knows me by sight, so knew I was happy just to enjoy the experience of chatting. And that prompted her to ask him a question that she'd suddenly remembered. But in one of the episodes, in about 4 scenes, he'd had his hair parted a different way, and was that because they were trying to cover up something on his forehead, and he just sat back in amazement and said, "You are incredible, that's exactly what happened." He'd been to see a golf match, and when he got home, somehow, he doesn't know how, he had a big graze on his forehead. So he told them just to comb it over, but he said, "You're the only person who's ever noticed that." So we had a laugh about that and a nice little chat. Really nice guy. Signed a photo for me. And he was happily posing for photos at the table, so this is me and him. Then it was time for me to get my autographs from Summer Glau. I had 5 for her to sign because I wanted one from Angel, one from Firefly, one from Terminator, one from Dollhouse, and then a nice glam sexy shot of her. She's very softly spoken, so I was having a bit of trouble hearing what she was saying at some points, but we were talking about the weekend and how manic it was. She signed the first one, moved it out of the way, and as it just brushed my finger as she moved it, and she quickly put her hand over mine and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, did I hit you with that?" And I just melted. I said, no, that's fine. But she could have left her hand on there all day, if you ask me. She had a guy with her, I don't know if it was her agent or her partner, or I don't know, but he was stood our side of the counter, and he was helping everybody get organised, which was nice. He helped a guy in front of me take his comic out of its sleeve, and as she was signing my 5, he was laying them out nicely so they would dry before I gathered them together. But a very nice experience. Made sure she wrote different things on each photo, as you can see. So on my Firefly one, she wrote "Keep Flying," because it's set in a spaceship. Then on the Terminator one, which, as you can see in a second, I then got Lena Headey to sign a bit later, but she put "I call 9mm," which is a quote from the show. John Connor shouts "I call shotgun," and she's misunderstanding, says "I call 9mm." Obviously it's done better on the show. She put "Lovely to meet you" on another one, "Kisses and hugs" on another, you know, X and noughts, and I can't remember what she put on the other one, but you'll see it when it comes up. But yes, so these are those. She was one of the busiest guests of the weekends, and was obviously no post photos, but having had a photo shoot, that was fine. I went straight from Summer to Lena Headey. As I say, it's the third time I've met Lena. I had the joint photo with Summer to get her to sign, and then I'd found a nice headshot for her to sign. Every year she just seems to get more and more popular. So the experience gets briefer and briefer, but very well organised. I asked her what it was like meeting the Queen, because the Queen visited the Game of Thrones set a couple of weeks ago, and Lena was introduced to her, and she said it was just crazy. But as always, yeah, very nice. These are photos she signed for me. From Lena, I went and got Milo's signature, Milo Ventimiglia. Very different experience from 2007. Happily chatting to everybody, dedicating. Much to my surprise, he was not only was he posing for photos, but he was actually taking them himself. He was just, if you asked for a photo, he'd take your camera off you, be it a normal camera or phone, and do it as a selfie. As you'll see in a second. But a couple of people, it come off of the camera setting, and no matter what the phone was, he straight away was just straight in there pressing the right buttons to get it onto the right setting. He knew exactly what he was doing. So I said to him, "Is there any camera phone you can't work?" He said, "Nah, they're all easy." He says, you know, we had a little chat about that. This is a photo he signed for me. And this is our selfie. Next was somebody who turned up late. I believe she was meant to be there all day, but she didn't get there until around midday. It's Ellie Kendrick, who's from Game of Thrones, also in Being Human and a couple of other things. Can't say too much about our conversation, just in case you haven't seen series 4, but she does have a big fight scene near the end of the series, and we discussed how that was done. Really nice, really friendly, really enthusiastic. When I asked her the question, she was like, "So this is what," you know, and explained exactly how it's happened, but as it wasn't a I've told this so many times, it's a "so I really want to tell you how this was and how much fun I had doing it." Really nice. This photo she signed for me. And this is me and her. Next, I had a bit of time, about 15 minutes for my next photo shoot, so I grabbed somebody who didn't have a queue, and it was around this time people were going to lunch, so she was one of the few people who hadn't gone yet. That was Serena Vincent, who I'd had a photo shoot with on Saturday. As I approached, I was getting out a photo I'd taken for her to sign. She said, "Oh, you've got a special one you bought yourself," which I sort of laughed with her about, and she happily signed it for me and posed for a photo. I didn't have a long conversation with her. I reminded her I'd been in a photo shoot, and probably lying. She said she remembered me, but I doubt she did. But yeah, very nice. Let's say didn't have much of a conversation because it's difficult to say I'm getting your autograph because I like your boobs, which I wouldn't be so rude as to say, but that was the main reason I was meeting her. Posed for a photo over a table with me again. This is a photo I got her to sign. And this is me and her. So then I had my photo shoot. With Juliet Landau. It was meant to start at 1:05. About 20 past. We were still all queued up. Wasn't moving. Don't know to this day what exactly the problem was, but once it was going, we got going. It was fine. She was again very lovely. Quick chat as we went in. Unfortunately, she was still wearing her shaded glasses, but I'm guessing that was to protect her from the flashes, because she's a vampire after all. No, because I'm guessing she might have a problem with her eyes. I know she does wear tinted glasses a lot. But yeah, she was just as nice again. This is the photo. Then it was a scoot from there round to Stan Lee's photo shoot. By that time it had been going on for an hour and 3/4, and that was just the first session. But I managed to get in. I knew I had a nice low number, but it made more sense to get Juliet first and then go back for Stan's, knowing that I'd have no problem joining the back of the queue. And sure enough, I was within the last 50 or so people from that session. They did about 1,000 in each session. He had two-hour sessions each day, so you can tell how popular he was. It was very much one of the production line ones. He was sat in a chair. It was a go up, quick high, and go, and they were pushing people through as quickly as they could. Not the best photo shoot I've had, either in terms of experience or in the actual photo, but it's the last chance I would ever have of being that close to somebody who in the world of comics and comic book films is an absolute legend. As I say, he's co-creator of Spider-Man and X-Men and the Avengers and the Hulk and most Marvel characters, certainly of the classic ones. He's got cameos in most of the Marvel films, so you probably recognise him. He was also in Kevin Smith's film Mallrats. But yeah, this is the shot. As I say, it's not one of my favourites, but this is me with Stan Lee, who's a legend. After Stan, I got Sarah Parish. Been in lots of things, Sarah. Main reason I was meeting her was she was the Arachnos in Doctor Who Christmas Special Runaway Bride, where we first met Catherine Tate's character Donna. Completely unrecognisable in that because she was under so much makeup, which we had a little chat about. So I also had a photo with her as herself for her to sign, which she happily signed both of those. She's also been in Atlantis and Merlin and lots of drama type stuff that I don't tend to watch. But really nice. As I say, we had a little chat about the makeup process, etc. For Doctor Who, and again how much she was enjoying the weekend and meeting people, and she was happy to pose for a photo, and a very nice one it is too. And these are the two shots she signed for me. From Sarah it was on to my next photo shoot, which was with Dina Meyer. I could tell straight away it was going to be a fun one, because the way they did it, they had Casper Van Dien's shot, then they had a dual shoot with him and Dina, and then Dina's solo shoot. And as the people were coming out from their dual shoot, you could see that they were doing all sorts of poses and what have you. So as I say, you could tell it was going to be a goodie. As we were going in, you could see that she was asking absolutely everybody what sort of pose they would like. Some people were doing more radical ones, lots of people were asking for hugs, some were just standard poses. After about 5 or 6 hugs in a row, she stopped the queue, about 3 or 4 people in front of me, and said, right, everybody, you've got to be more imaginative. We're doing lots of these shoots, and if you just get the same old, it gets boring. So try and come up with something original. So I thought, oh God, here we go, what am I going to ask for? So as I say, I only had about 3 people to think. So I asked her if she'd go to kiss my cheek, which she smiled and nodded, and this is the result. One of my favourite shots ever. And as I thanked her for it, she sort of winked and said, you're welcome. From there, I got Kate Dickie. Kate's in Game of Thrones, but she's also done lots of other things. She's done lots of what I would call proper films. She was in Karen Gillan's film Not Another Happy Ending, which I only watched the other day. Another film that Karen Gillan had a very small role in prior to Doctor Who, called Outcast, which she was excellent in. Kate was. But yeah, done lots and lots of things. Unfortunately, she wasn't posing for photos because she was just too busy, but she was really nice. Again, I had a little chat about the business of the weekend and the horror stories she'd heard about Saturday, which was the main topic of conversation with lots of people. Shocked me a bit because she was blonde, but yeah, very nice. This is a photo she signed for me from Game of Thrones. Next I met Robert Hayes, who's done quite a bit, but he's most famous for playing the leads in Airplane and its sequel. I went up to him and he was talking to somebody else, but then he stopped to take care of me. I said, could you make it out to Martin? And he said, yeah, sure. He said, the OU is silent, isn't it? I thought for a second. Yes, it is, I said, and we laughed. When I told that to Mum, she didn't get it, so if you don't get it, don't worry, it must be something you had to be there for. But you know, I said to him, I'm sure you've heard this a lot, but Airplane is just one of the funniest films ever made. He said, well, thank you very much. I said, it must have been a blast making it. He said, yeah, people asked me what it was like, if it was tough to make, and I said, well, only if you consider it being tough going into work and just laughing your arse off all day. Really nice guy. So he signed a photo for me. And was happy to pose for a photo. Next I met Helen Slater. Helen I've met before. She played Supergirl in Supergirl. She was also in quite a few decent movies in the 80s. She was in The Secret of My Success with Michael J. Fox. A brilliant film called Happy Together. House in the Hills with Michael Madsen, funnily enough, and I'd hoped that maybe I'd be able to find a decent shot of them together to get them both to sign, but couldn't track one down and they didn't have one at the event. When I met her last time, it was at Collectomania a few years ago. In her photo shoot, apparently somebody touched her inappropriately, so I wasn't sure how she'd be this time. I mean, the fact that she was coming back obviously meant that it wasn't too traumatic for her, but I wondered how she'd be, but she was fine. I had a Supergirl photo for her to sign, and also a still that was from Secret of My Success. And we had a little chat about how very 80s her hair and makeup was in it. I spoke to her a little bit about Happy Together and how difficult it was to find a copy of it. Very nice. These are the photos she signed for me. And she was happy to pose for a photo. Next was Sybil Killy, and I'm reading that because I can never remember her name, and whether that's pronounced correctly I don't know. She plays Shay in Game of Thrones, who's Peter Dinklage's lover. She was again a very late announcement. She was announced on Thursday night, same time as Isaac. She was, well, apart from the fact she was away from her signing for quite a while, but I think that was mainly shoots and talks and stuff. she wasn't particularly busy, and I think that was largely because really she was a bit overpriced. She was £25, which for somebody of her history, shall I say, I'll explain that in a second, and the seniority of her character in the show, probably the best way of putting it. I would have only expected her to be 15 or 20. I'm guessing because she was such a late booking, it was expensive getting her to the event from wherever she was, whether she was in her native France or whether she was in the States, I don't know, but I'm guessing that sort of pushed her price up a bit. But I wanted her because she's quite a main character in the show. Yeah, when I say about her history, her only other real credit is that she used to appear in adult movies. So if you are Googling her to find out who she is, be careful. But she was nice enough. English isn't her first language, so we weren't deep in conversation, but she was enjoying the event. And even though she was in one of the cordoned off areas, which normally means production line and no post photos, she was happily posing for photos. So I did manage to get one with her. So this is me with her. And this is the photo she signed for me. Last autograph of the day, you'll be pleased to hear, was Curtis Armstrong, who I was thrilled when he was announced because he played Herbert Viola in Moonlighting, which was one of my favourite TV shows of all time. Those of you of a similar age to me or older will know it as the TV show that launched Bruce Willis. Those of you who are too young to know it, go back and watch it. It is brilliant. I managed to find a reasonable Moonlighting photo for him, which is a good job because they didn't have any on his desk. Went up to him, gave him a photo. I've just got to say, Moonlighting, best TV show of the 80s. And he just looked up and with all sincerity said thank you very much. And as you can see, he's put a lovely little message on the photo. I'm paraphrasing here because it's not in front of me, but it's to Martin. Best wishes from the junior partner of Blue Moon Detective Agency, Herbert Viola, and then his signature, Curtis Armstrong. Yeah, really nice of him to do that. Happy to pose for a photo with me as well. This is me and him. As you can see, he came up round my desk to pose for it, and again when I thanked him he said no, it's my pleasure, he said. So yeah, nice guy. And finally it was my Michael Madsen photo shoot. His attitude seemed to be much the same in that he was sort of half looking at you as you approached, but he shook your hand and, you know, said thanks for coming, how are you, and various pleasantries. In front of me there is a couple of guys who are having two shots with both of them in. Now that's the way it works. If you want two people in one photo, you buy two tickets, but they take two photos. But I'm not sure if one of theirs had gone wrong or whether they'd only had one taken, so they had to go back round, and when he recognised him again he grabbed them and went to butt their heads together. So he was having a nice joke with people, and he was smiling nicely in the photos. He wasn't all surly as some people can be. This is the shot with him. By then it was about 5:15, so it was time to make my way home. I came back the scenic route from the middle of London, so it didn't take quite as long. But yeah, Sunday was much better than Saturday, much quieter. Still busy, probably busy as a Saturday would have been a couple of years ago. Much cooler in there, fewer people, and also the fact it had rained overnight had cooled the air conditioning a bit, so that was more effective. Still very hot though. But yeah, overall a good weekend. There's been lots of complaints about Stanley. He hardly signed anything on Sunday because he wasn't feeling up to it, which, as I say, he's 91, so that's understandable, but obviously a pity for people who turned up. The people who didn't get in on the Saturday because they were being turned away, again, understandable that they'd be peed off about it, but if you don't pre-book, there is no guarantee you'll get in. Definitely understand the people moaning who had their hand stamped to leave and weren't let back in, but again, you've got to understand health and safety. What would you rather do? Be a fire risk, potentially kill hundreds of people, or have to wait 5 minutes for somebody to leave before you're allowed into a venue? I know which I'd rather go for. As I say, very few of the complaints that have surfaced about the event have affected me. The only one I was a bit miffed about was they were selling programmes for the first time ever, £5, and each one was numbered and you got entered into a raffle. Lots of people moaning that the raffle, they couldn't find where the raffle numbers were announced, but they were on the table in the middle of the hall where they said in advance they would be. Not quite sure there was an actual draw on stage. I've heard reports that it was a case of if you weren't there, then if your number was drawn you didn't get your prize. I'm not entirely sure if that's true or not, so I won't comment on that. But what I was a bit miffed about was that as we were leaving on the Sunday, they were just giving the programmes away. So those of us who paid £5 and didn't win anything, which is fair enough, it's a raffle, you're not guaranteed to win, but at the end of the day we were getting something that other people were getting for nothing. So yes, I wasn't best pleased about that, but it might make me decide not to buy one if they do it again in the future, but we shall see. I really must end now because this has been going on for a long time. By the time I edit it, I'm guessing it's going to be nigh on an hour, so I apologise for the length. Watch it in instalments, but you'll have watched it all by the time you hear this. I'll shut up now. I'll speak to you later in the year for Milton Keynes or the London winter one, whichever one's first. I can't remember which way round it is. Bye.